Morning, morning, morning. Hey. What's going on, Gary?
Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about hand signals. Yes, those hand signals. It has been one of the most requested or suggested topics of videos for me, both offline, online, and in the comment section. Now, I'm going to talk about hand signals my way. I'm going to talk about hand signals that are appropriate for group riding in terms of communication and safety and harmony. I'm not going to talk about hand signals for like traffic safety, you know, this deal and that deal. We're just going to talk about what you should use as a hand signal, when you should use it, and some that people use that are very popular that maybe you should use a little bit less of. In this though, I'll also talk about the importance of keeping your hands on the bars as long as possible. And I'll also talk about the importance of incorporating verbal cues properly, not in an excessive manner, while you're out there group riding. Now, special shout out to everybody who's watching from Virginia. What's up, Virginia? And in particular to my friend Andre, who was featured on the last video about saddlebags and what to carry and stuff like that. Andre has recently formed his own race team called Carbon, and the B is spelled with a 6. And Andre is an all-around great guy. I still remember the first time he came down here to South Florida and jumped into one of my group rides. We've seen each other on rides in different parts of the country, and we've just kind of like remained friends. But Andre is doing some amazing things with his race team. He's a great supporter of this channel also. And Andre recently, now as a Cat 3, won his season opener. But I'm very proud of him and what he's doing and that accomplishment. Now, stability on the bike is of utmost importance, and that's why I emphasize the importance of making sure that you keep your hands on the bar. But also alerting fellow cyclists to impending dangers and things that could take somebody out is of equal importance. So we've got to try to find a balance between keeping your hands on the bar, but also making sure that your fellow cyclists know what's going on the ride. So we could kind of say we're going to make sure that we keep both hands on the bar primarily while braking and turning. But at the same time, doing those scenarios, we got to make sure that we start incorporating verbal cues when it's not practical for us to take our hands off the bar. Things that you should always use hand signals for is holes, debris, glass, cars poking out, something going on that is definitely a danger that could affect somebody's ride. We want to always make sure that in those situations we use the appropriate hand signals. And more than likely it's this deal where you're pointing something out. You're pointing down that something could potentially affect somebody, or you're pointing that, like, let's say it's a car or something that's scooching up a little bit too much or that's poking out. You want to make sure that you point at that so that the cyclists behind you are aware of a situation that they may have missed from their vision. Now, one really important thing as a cyclist, rather than staring down at your head unit or chit-chatting with somebody, you need to make sure that you're engaging, you're paying attention as much as it is possible. It's not just that cycling is dangerous. Group cycling is also very dangerous because there's so many different things that are potentially out of our control. So other things that we've got to make sure that we use hand signals for are situations like when we're standing. One of the signs that you can use for when you're standing is both hands on the bar, poke both elbows out. The other thing that you can do when you're standing is just put your hand in the small of your back and just kind of like flip it up like that. That lets the person behind you know that you're standing. And if you didn't know that, that's what that means. The other things that we want to do is, like, let's say you're on the front and you're getting ready to come off the front and you want people to come by on your left. You do the chicken wing on this side, means that you're coming off of the pace line. Doing the chicken wing on this side means that you're coming off that side of the pace line. Okay, those are kind of like universally accepted hand signals, which is different than somebody doing the... You don't need to do all of that. Again, keep your hands on the bar, flick out your elbow. The person behind you will know that they need to come by on that side, on the side of the elbows flicked out, and vice versa. If your group is not practicing that, that's one of those things that you want to emphasize that they do, because I promise you in most places that you have seasoned cyclists or people who've been around in the sport for a while, that's the kind of cues that they practice and that they're expecting. And the other two cues that kind of like will go along with that will be like if you have a mechanical, typically if I have a mechanical like a flat or something like that, I'm raising my hand just so that people who are behind me and if they're coming up, they'll realize that, you know, sometimes you get this parting of the seas where a person didn't necessarily see it. Hands up, somebody can see that and they'll know, hey, to take evasive action so that they're not running into the back of my derailleur. Nobody really wants that. And of course, there's something like changing lanes. In changing lanes, I may look down, use my peripheral vision, and just kind of like point. Or if I'm coming off of the pace line and sliding back, rather than going all the way to the back, I'm gonna look for a spot where I can get in, kind of point. I'll wait for the person to tell me go ahead or check to see to make sure that there's a gap there, and I'll go into that space. Okay, so what we're gonna talk about now is things that it's okay to signal sometimes, but you're better off using verbal cues for it. And that's things like this. That's obviously turning right or left turn or slowing. Oftentimes, I've seen cyclists take their hands off the bar right at the point where you're getting ready to start slowing down or turning, in which you need utmost control of the bike, only to find out that they did this and now they're trying to get their hands back on the bike because they try to brake with one hand. They realize that that's not a very good practice and they're trying to get their hand back on the bar to gain back control of the bike. In those instances, you're much better off saying right turn or left turn or slowing. I cannot really think of a time when I have taken my hands off the bar to do either one of those things. And if you're on a ride with me and you catch me, call me on it, because I really don't think that I do that. Control and stability on your bike is very important. Communicating with cyclists around you about what's going on is also very important. But this is one of those words like, yeah, I've got to let them know what's going on, but I need to keep control of my bike.
All right.
Use your verbal cues for those. And as I mentioned earlier, in a group ride, the cyclists with you are paying attention. They're watching your back or your wheel or paying attention to 2 or 3 cyclists ahead of you so they can see that the group is getting ready to slow down. So they've already started working on that. So you make sure you keep your hands on the bar rather than doing this. Now, something that I've got to mention about verbal cues is we've got to be a little bit conservative at times with it, because I've been in rides where it was a whole heap of cyclists and you hear, ho! Ho, 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 ho. Everybody's yelling ho. Nobody knows where the hole is. And what that creates is a little bit of hysteria where everybody is slowing down or moving around, anticipating where the hole may be because nobody has pointed it out. Typically, if I'm in one of those, big group situations and I hear hole and stuff like that, I'm making sure I give myself room so that I can see, and I'm watching the body language of the cyclist in front of me to make sure that I can avoid it. Or if I'm in a pace line situation, I can have a little bit more control on both lanes of what's going on to be able to avoid it. So don't contribute to the hysteria. Make sure that if you're yelling out something, it's something that you are aware of, you know where it's coming from, or that you can see it. This gets back to me wanting to make sure that I keep my hands on the bars for as long as I possibly can. I'm not going to neglect or jeopardize the safety of one of my fellow cyclists, but I make sure that I strike that balance between me being stable and me clearly communicating some danger or something that can affect somebody's ride. Okay, I think I got them all in. If I've missed something or I've said something that you do a little bit different, please jump in the comment section and share with us. Let us know what your method is. I want you to know that I'm the type of person that I get a lot out of our comment section. A perfect example is our last video on what to carry. Many of you weighed in very strongly on saddlebag versus jersey pocket. And because, as time goes on, my love handles are protruding more and more. That means that whatever I put in my side jersey pockets protrude more and more. I'm starting to look like I have fairings. The one thing that I'm like, man, I wish I could get my spare tube or my spare tubular, as small as it is, out of my jersey pocket. So just based on some of the comments, I decided to experiment with some different saddlebags, and I recently got one that's on a V3 RS that I'm going to be trialing. It's called a speed sleeve. It's very tiny, and I'll let you guys know what I think. And also, those of you who said, hey, what about arm warmers, leg warmers, gilets, and rain capes? Paola has agreed to do a video on those items, how to carry them, where to store them, and how to strategize. So you can look forward to that video real soon. All right. As always, our aim here at the channel is to inform, instruct, inspire. Be blessed.